Welcome back to the Leadership Lounge. This is the show where I shine the light on leaders who are doing it right. And what the guest I have today is going to delight you, and you are going to learn so much from this episode. What do you get when you combine a 30-year CFO, COO, and commercial leader, the financial mind behind agency powerhouses like Highwire PR and M. Booth, a licensed CPA who's led complex M&A and integrations, a strategist who believes numbers only matter if people do, and a former SiriusXM MLB network radio host who knows a thing or two about pressure, performance, and playing the long game? You get my guest, Joe Hamrahi. Joe helps leaders see around corners financially, strategically, and culturally so that they can build businesses that don't just grow fast, but last. Welcome to the Leadership Lounge, Joe.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I think we talked about this like 3 or 4 months ago, and here we are today. So I'm pumped up.
So happy you're here. I mean, you have such a unique background, and I'm so excited for people to get to know you. So why don't we start there? And would you just level set? And for the people that don't know you, tell us a little about your story.
Yeah, so you hit on a lot of the pieces. I was originally, grew up in a modest family. My father was an Iranian immigrant. He came here in 1960, did the whole stereotypical driving the taxi in Manhattan. And he always talked about a better life for his kids. And my brother and I were really important in that. And so one thing that was really like front and center was education was non-negotiable. It was about learning, growing, and he was just so selfless about that. And we lost him almost 35 years ago. But he became, you don't realize it when you're growing up, but he was, now looking back, he was clearly my idol. My brother and I did get very educated. We did all kinds of schooling, but we went on to really good careers, and he really lives in me today. So I did the whole route of going through public accounting. I was really fortunate to be recruited into corporate finance. To this day, one of my favorite places was Interactive Futures, and one of my favorite bosses of all time, Steve Scher, who I hope will see this at some point. We did some great things, but I went into the communications PR agency world in 2004 and stayed at M. Booth for 19 years with an incredible team. Margie Booth was amazing. She's still like family to me. And I learned so much about not just business, but people and culture. And that has led me to the point where I am today. After going through the agency world, I had a lot of people reach out to me, and saw the growth that we had at M. Booth and at Highwire and others, and said, look, can we do consulting? And it's really tricky to do that when you're actually working for an agency. So I've always wanted to do something on my own. And I went out this past year, and I've been really fortunate to get out of the gate fast with some amazing people and amazing clients. And it's the entrepreneurial world, and this, it's the ups and downs of that. It's a little bit unpredictable, but it's so much fun.
Well, I think for anyone that knows me, having finance people on my show is not a normal thing, because so many finance people really disconnect the people piece of it. And when you and I met, we hit it off right away. You have so much heart. And that was really why it was a no-brainer to have you on the show. So here's a question for you. Why does finance still intimidate so many leaders? And what's the real cost of that?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think that one of the things is when people think about finance, it's the historical kind of definition of it. It's like everyone's worried about the finance team or the CFO saying no, 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 no. And it's not really about no. I mean, this position has evolved into really over the years is like, how do we invest in the business and asking the right questions? And that's what leads to seeing ahead. I've never been about, no for the sake of no. I mean, my job is to help a business grow. And I've talked about this a lot this week. It's about operationalizing and putting the people in the best position to succeed as a business. So the business comes first. I think that stigma still exists a bit about like, this is all about numbers. This is all about checklists. This is all about controlling costs. when
Yeah.
really, and honestly, it's really not that at all.
I think it's more than a stigma. And I can just tell you from my own experience. I mean, I was in big, big corporate and I watched the soul of the company change
Yeah.
because as soon as they turned over control to the bean counters, no offense, everything became a line item, including people. And I'm still seeing that. And
Yeah.
when I see that, it really worries me. It takes away the humanity and the autonomy and the ability for leaders to do what they want to do in order to get the most out of their people. So here's a question for you. How do you know when culture is actually a financial problem
Yeah. I think that
or
that
culture
resonates.
suffering?
Yeah. I think what happens is you immediately start to see a lot of the focus is on when you're focusing on when the culture is deteriorating, what you start to see is a lot of different issues in the background. And I think what winds up happening is you see a lot of churn of the key people. And then it becomes, you start to realize that that isn't impacting the growth of the agency, or the growth of the company. It's in people that work together well and hold. And I will probably say this a number of times on this call. Even though I'm a people person and I'm all about teams, accountability matters. And it matters all the way to the top. And I think sometimes when you're in a position where you're going through day-to-day tasks and you're crisis and there's pressures, you forget that it's humanity, this is humanity and this is people that we are dealing with. What I've dealt with mostly in my world of the last 23 years is the entire product that we bring to the clients is people. Mm-hmm. And if that doesn't resonate with the leaders at the top, that has an impact on the staff. It has an impact on the morale. And then it really becomes a total financial problem. Because then you're churning people, you're not getting the best product of work to clients. It just has a snowball effect.
Oh, you're 100% right. And I think what leaders who turn the reins over to the people making those kinds of decisions don't recognize is when you have a leader who has like a beautiful, beautiful culture in their team and they leave the business, there is a ripple effect. And immediately there is so much fear, so much uncertainty, so much questioning, should I stay too? And, that cascade of terror it takes a while to recover. And I know when I left my team, they still call me. It was 5 years later. They still call me. They still reminisce about the times that we had, the magic we created. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but that's how I felt with my leaders when they left. And right. I think that's something that people really need to consider when they're making these decisions around, okay, this person's been with us for 20 years, which isn't the norm anymore, or 30 years, and they make too much money. So let's get rid of them. Well, 30 years, you've amassed an incredible network and a lot of respect. So when you're being managed out of the business, that's rough.
And just institutional knowledge. I mean, that gets passed down. Conversely, there's another side of this too with culture. And I want to touch on this because it's not exactly what we're talking about, but it's just as important. Yeah. There's also people that can actually make the culture toxic. And sometimes those people have been there a long time and are living off their reputation. And what I've also seen is, and this is a really difficult thing for leadership to do, is to move out people who no longer are serving the business properly. And what has happened in the few instances that I've seen that occur is that has raised everybody up behind them. There's almost like a sigh of relief. And I think it's a really important aspect of how you manage businesses. Like it's a day-to-day reckoning of what's happening in the business. You need to actually pay attention to all the signals that are coming up.
I couldn't agree more. So let's say hi to the folks in the audience. Guys, keep the comments coming. We love seeing them. We love knowing you're out there. If you haven't said hi yet, please say hi. Tell us where you're dialing in from. And thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing the show. We appreciate it. Okay, Joe. So what is the most expensive people mistake you see companies repeat?
Because I come from the professional services arena, I often see people who feel overwhelmed and panicked often decide they definitely need help. They definitely need more staff without actually modeling that and figuring out what the return is. One of the things I really preach hard now is like, what's the outlook for the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months of this expensive hire you're going to make? And what are they going to bring to the firm, the agency, the company? And often it's often in they think about what the moment needs, not what the long-term vision is. And that's partially my job. Like, I have to ask those questions. So I see often we'll go and hire, like somebody said we should hire this person, or I'm overwhelmed. We hire them. And then what winds up happening is 6 months down the line, you're sitting there with too much capacity, too many people. And then it becomes a big problem because now you're talking about rifts and layoffs and moving people out. And then that's where the culture comes back in, Lindsay. You're affecting the culture, and people are worrying about what's going to happen next. And it has another like compounding effect that creates a lot of people start to get worried about what's going to happen. So those are things, that's a really expensive aspect of what I've seen on the people side. But also the fact that, again, we talked about it in the last conversation, is like, if your culture is not good and the people are leaving, that's very expensive too. So
I was going to say that. I think the short-sighted piece of it of hiring and firing, I mean, hiring is very, very expensive, and losing people is very expensive. So really consider who's on the bench, and are you asking the right questions? Do you know what their special gifts are? Do you know what they bring to the table? And if you don't, you better find out, or you're not a leader who's listening to this show. Anyway, from your perspective, since you get to consult now, what are leaders you're working with getting right?
So I think that this is sort of like my plug. They're asking for help. And I think that is something that's, when I approach a client, it's about working together. It's not, I'm right, you're wrong, you're right, I'm wrong. It's about how we work together. And I think the clients that are open to having those discussions are really advancing their business. It doesn't have to be me. It certainly could be someone like you, Lindsay. I work with a number of people who are great coaches. And there's nothing that's wrong with asking for help. And I think we have sort of gotten to a point now where people understand that there is a human aspect of this, and you don't know everything. And the ones that are actually looking ahead, who do I need to help my business move forward? That has been really important in the evolution of businesses I've worked with now. And I see it much more often than I have in the past. So that's really been a breakthrough for me. The other part that I think that they're getting right is, again, I think there is a bit of an opening now to understanding what mental health really is. And people talking about that more frequently, understanding about that. I'm a big advocate for mental health. And, we never know what's going on in people's lives at any point in time. They could have a million things, personal things with their children, things that their parents. And I think we're being a little bit more aware of those situations.
I love that you're seeing that. I love that you're hearing that. And I love that you're echoing that, because there are a lot of leaders who would prefer to pretend that mental health is not really a thing they need to touch on, support, help. And I love that you brought that up. That's great. Okay, so let's flip that question. What are leaders getting right to what are leaders getting wrong?
So the converse side of that is that some of them, and I'm not stereotyping, but I think some of them who particularly have been in business a long time and have had some level of success, often think that that's the be all end all, and they know what they know, and they don't want to take any other recommendations or thoughts or how to get to the next phase of their business. And it's completely fine if you want to keep your business where it is. There's nothing wrong with that. One of the things I ask every client is, like, what are your goals? Like, if you want to maintain the business you have and the lifestyle you have and don't want to change anything, great. That's perfect. I think what the ones that explain and talk about how they want to grow, and then when you have those conversations with them, it gets a little bit, it starts to go towards the defensive side. And that's not, it's about having an open mind. It's a dialogue. And I think that's one of the things that's tricky. And then on the pure finance side of things, I still think that yes, revenue is the lifeblood of every agency, but more importantly, margins matter. And I've wrote about it today, and I've wrote about it, I think, once a week, and I talk about it. Cash is king. What your cash is tells you everything. And I think that those are things, I think cash and margins are things that I think most leaders, in fact, you've said it today, I would venture to guess that most business owners, I guess I'm painting a broad stroke here, lots of business owners don't know what their margins are right now. If I ask them today, they know what their revenue is. They will absolutely tell you that, but they don't know what their margins are. So those are some things I'm trying to change and shift with people. And it's just about having the conversation and educating. I consult with a teaching point of view. I want to bring explainable, what may seem as difficult facts in more of a understanding way. I use all kinds of analogies and metaphors. Anyone who's on here has seen my LinkedIn's, I talk about manatees and animals and all kinds of fun things like that as they pertain. And as you can see from my baseball picture in the back, I bring baseball into almost everything.
Yep, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that, so not to worry. So what's one lens, if you could give leaders one financial lens to carry into their decisions moving forward, what would that be?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think from one perspective, I think that really is start to think a little bit about not just where you are today, but where you want to go. And I think that those are items and thoughts that will help you to think more broadly, and also starts to get into what kind of people do you need? What is it that your agency or your company today will look like 6 months from now, and really be intentional about that. What is it that you want to achieve, and what do you want to achieve, not just for you, but for the people in your organization? And I think when you have buy-in from your team and everybody's rowing in the same direction, the outcomes are limitless. And I think those are the kinds of items and the issues that come up a lot. But again, it goes back to a bit about having an open mind. I had this conversation earlier today. I've been wrong way more times than I've been right in my career. But that's how we learn. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be challenged. One of my people I worked with for years at M Booth, and I don't know if she's on this call, Alex Mackey. We had such a great relationship to the point where I love when Alex would say to me, "Joe, I think you're wrong on this." And I was like, wow, I want to hear that from the people I work with, because that's how I learn and I grow. And that's how we build trust with each other.
Yeah, you're touching on one of my favorite topics, and that's failure. And how you view failure is really important. If you view failure as, oh my gosh, I screwed this up and there's no coming back from this, versus, okay, what's the lesson here? I didn't get it right, but what can I take away from this? So A, I don't do it again, but B, the people behind me can learn from this story. And that's what the best leaders do. We share our vulnerabilities. We share, this didn't work for me, and let me tell you why. And maybe I can prevent you from making the same mistake. And that's good leadership. So speaking of failure, what's a story of failure that turned out to be one of your greatest strengths?
So I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think it goes a little bit back to relationships and my dad and family. I'm going to be honest and vulnerable on this call. I didn't know when I was growing up, and my dad passed away when I was 21. So I didn't have a lot of time with him. But what I took away from that is that what I was learning from him at that time would carry into the rest of my life, 30, 40 years later. I poured I don't know if this is a failure or this is just a acknowledgement of what I've learned. I poured myself and my life into my work, and I wasn't always the best dad. I wasn't always the best husband. Um, I made a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes I can't take back. But what I've done is I've tried to use that as to a way to fortify my relationships going forward. Those of you who know me, and again, this comes from another great colleague at M Booth, when I was going through a very difficult time. You can't change the past. You can only move forward. So I've adopted "keep going" as my mantra. In fact, it's so much so that I literally tattooed "keep going" on my inside of my left forearm, to remind myself that no matter what mistakes we make, no matter what we do in our past, if we could learn from that and move forward, and we're still here and we can still accomplish things, that's what matters. And my relationships with my family have gotten better. My relationships with my colleagues have gotten better. My relationships with the people I know and meet now have gotten better. And I need to what I've learned to do is take a pause and also surround myself with people who are going to raise me up and not necessarily bring me down. So it's not necessarily a failure, Lindsay. I think it's more of a life learning, if you will, on that side.
No, I think I love the way you said it. And speaking of people, I mean, look at all the people that are showing up here for you today who admire you, love your content, love your work. So I love seeing that. So speaking of people, who believed in you before you believed in you?
Wow, that's great. I I still struggle with this, believe it or not. I think that's part of who I am, and you know, being a bit of a perfectionist, which I've tried to shed a little bit, but it's always going to go back to my dad. Um, there were times, I remember this really vividly. This is really going back now. um, I was I was really into football growing up. I'm still into football. Um, Big sports family, and I was like 11 years old playing like Pop Warner football, and I didn't even it's this is how crazy vivid this is. I did not realize how well I excelled at football then, and there was the awards dinner at the end of the year, and there were some great players, even 11 years old. I mean, some of these went on to really great college careers. I know them still. Um, but I went to this dinner with my dad, and we're at this table, and they do these awards, and they come up with a league MVP. And I was a defensive player. I wasn't like a running back or a quarterback. And I won the league MVP that year, and I was stunned by it. Like I was like, and all I remember is looking at my dad and him smiling. And in fact, then he started to cry a little bit, which he never cried, which was, one of those kind of things. But I still go back to that. Like I miss him so dearly to this day, because I wonder how he would feel about my brother and I. And my brother's got onto a great career. He's he's the senior vice president of the New York Giants for 25 years. So we've really made our dad proud, and I think he instilled in me, like, every time I feel like I don't believe in myself, I go back to some of those moments.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going a little deep here, but this is 45 years ago, but it made such an impact seeing him, and from that point forward, I remember like the things he used to tell me, and what I miss about it is we got really close at the end, right before he died. And he died very suddenly while I was at college, and I remember thinking, every time I think there's a hard time, here's somebody who came to this country with nothing and built an entirely new generation of people, like family, that is now excelling. And that's what I now try to do with not only my family, but the people I come in contact with.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing such a beautiful story. Your dad sounds like an incredible, incredible guy. Okay, guys. So, you don't come to this show and walk away empty handed. So, you can go have a little shopping spree on me. So, if you go to cozyearth.com and you use the code LEADWITHHEART, it's a 41% discount until the end of the month. And then the discount changes to 21%. It's still the deepest you can find anywhere. But if you want to have a good night's sleep, let me tell you, these sheets are delicious. I have them on my bed. They've been on Oprah's Favorite Things 9 times, and they are extraordinary. So go have some fun shopping on me and enjoy. And hey, thank you for being here. Thank you for telling your friends about it. And if you like this content, go check out my podcast. It's the Heartbeat for Hire podcast, episode 188. Aired yesterday. So it is going strong. It's scheduled until August. It's going to be just keep going. All right, Joe, are you ready?
I'm ready.
We're going to do the lead it or leave it speed round, which is not speedy. So I'm going to give you a topic. If you love it, you're going to say lead it. And if you don't, you're going to say leave it. And I'm probably going to ask you why. So you ready?
Yes.
Okay. First topic, debt as strategy. And you can take these however you want. So talk about however you want.
Lead it.
Okay, why?
I think there's a proper point in a cycle of a business where debt is important. And I think that those are the kind of, but it has to be strategically planned. I think there's times for that. And then there's times where it's debt for gets you in over your head is not the right place. But I think there are times when you need to invest in your business and you need to have funding to do that.
Yeah.
That's important.
I like it. Okay, good. Okay. Finance as the gatekeeper.
Lead it, but I do not think that it's a gatekeeper. It's a function that supports the business and works in collaboration with the team. Period.
I like that one. Okay, and this is similar. So CFO as the cop.
Yeah, I'll lead it. Same concept. I think we're in service of the business. The client, the team, and the agency and the company are our clients. They come first, and our goal is to make them better every day.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, here. This is really not much to do with finance, but again, take it as you like. So side hustles.
Lead it. I think that there's a time and a place for those. And I think that I did a side hustle. I would side hustle in baseball, and it was extraordinarily helpful and helped me grow in so many different ways, in a passion that I love. And just really quick, because I know this is the speed round, but it's
not that speedy. Take your time. Go ahead.
Because this became such a big thing while I was still at M Booth, and everybody knew about it. I was very transparent about it. Mm-hmm. I became there were times when Margie Booth would introduce me as working in baseball before she'd introduce me as her CFO or COO, which it became such a fun part of my life and my career, that I think that in the right time and place, as long as it doesn't take away from who you are, what you do, and where you're going, or your first commitment, which is, whether your business or your family or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of a side hustle. I think everyone should have them. There's no such thing as job security. There's only career security. You got to build that for yourself, and you've got to do things that you love. It's really, really important. So if you're really good at baking cookies, or you're really good at making jewelry, or you're really good at creating video or selling baseball cards or having a baseball radio show, freaking do it, man. Do it. Okay. Building a brand while sitting in the C-suite.
Ooh.
Meaning a personal brand.
Yeah. Let's stay with lead it. I think that's important. And I think it goes with what you just said. I think your personal brand is important, and it actually can also be in service of the company you're working with, because thought leadership goes a long way in different ways, and it goes to the credibility of the place you're working for, but it also elevates your individual brand. And to your point, Lindsay, you just never know anything's going to happen on any given day. So I think it's always important to make sure, and it's not arrogant, it's to make sure that you take care of you first. It's the whole put on the oxygen mask first before you help everybody else. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. I think we were taught coming up through corporate that, your title is everything, and you separate your personal from your professional. And I mean, back in the day, we had no moonlighting contracts that, you were not allowed to do anything else, but that has changed. And I think people are hungry to have the whole picture, the whole person. And just like you were talking about with baseball, which we are going to talk about, so don't get worried, gang. Having that was such a wonderful and creative thing that you were able to bring to the table. So I love that. All right. So we got a couple more. One, cost cutting as leadership.
Lead it. I think that there's and it depends what costs we're talking about. I think that when it's cost cutting, where there is excess, then that's actual leadership. I think when it's cost cutting, and you look at around the world today, just for the sake of purely building overall profit, I think there's that's a little dangerous. But I will say, in some defense of the companies that deal, publicly traded companies, there are shareholders that they're accountable to. And unfortunately, that's part of the capitalist situation and society we live in. So they're in a situation where they have to answer to people who are investing in their company. So I don't love cost cutting as leadership. I think it's about where you figure out more efficiency is where cost cutting should come in.
That's cool. I like how you answered that. Okay, here's one. And I'm curious about this one from your perspective, because I had this one on last week with Donna Brown, who is an HR pro. So unlimited PTO.
This is a good one. I'll leave this one. This comes up literally almost every single week. I mean, here's the thing. I think, is it really unlimited PTO? I think we put it down on paper. I think from the accountant standpoint of view, we love unlimited PTO because it means we don't have to accrue the expense on our books for potential people paying out leave. But reality, from the standpoint of what it really means, is that every time I've seen unlimited PTO, it certainly has constraints. You can't just take off forever. I think the one part about it that is important, if it's done right, is it helps people feel empowered by it. But there's still communication. You're still working in an organization. You can't just take 2 months off and disappear. That doesn't work that way. So I think that I'm a fan of it from standpoints of technicalities and what we do, but I also think if it's done right, it can work well. But sometimes it's not done right. So
oh God, I mean, I've seen it so many times where you get your package and it's unlimited PTO, but your manager or your leader is like, yeah, I don't really think you should be taking that much time off, and you're like, well, aren't I allowed to? And then bad. Well, congratulations. You just finished the speed round. Well done. And next week, you guys, we have Candace Vanderthalen is entering the Leadership Lounge. I'm very much looking forward to having her there. And let's get back to the questions. And I know the audience is eager to hear your thoughts on this one. So what were a few things you learned while being a radio host at SiriusXM?
So that was one of my most enjoyable things I've done in my career. I've also worked with 2 amazing professional broadcasters. So one of them was Mike Farron, who's still on SiriusXM every day, and is a good friend of mine and is brilliant at what he does. Mike taught me a lot. He's also not just a broadcaster. He's like a baseball guru. Like, he knows everything. And when you think you know a lot about a subject, all you need to do is surround yourself with baseball lifers or any business lifers, and you learn, right? So Mike was he's a professional radio guy to begin with, but I learned a lot from him on how to be on air how to talk. And it's been a while, so maybe I'm a little choppy right now.
You're doing great. Don't worry about it. You're good.
But also our co-host was Darren Sutton, and Darren is also a professional broadcaster. He's the son of Hall of Famer Don Sutton, and Darren and I are also friends. And Darren broadcasted for the professional baseball teams on air, like on TV. Yeah. So these guys were really it was really interesting to learn. But what they were great about was the way you're doing this with me, Lindsay, is they were really great about when I wasn't as what I should be the best at my best. They would carry me and help me learn. And we were very vulnerable on that show. Also, was at 11 p.m. Eastern time after the MLB Sunday Night Major League Baseball game, and we had call-ins and it was fun. But I think it was just about professionalism. But also to your point before, just being yourself. People loved when we were just having fun. There was one show, and poor Darren's gonna really kill me if he hears this, is that there was one show where we went to a break and we were near the end of it and we came back and we tossed it to Darren and Darren fell asleep. Thank God there was only 3 minutes left in the show. So, and it was just that the show was on so late at night and it was just but the funny thing is people loved that. We played to that the following week.
I mean, you have to, but that goes back to the moments of failure, the moments of vulnerability. Right. That's all in your favor. It's a really good thing. So that's awesome.
A lot of great things from baseball I learned. I'm still really fortunate to be in touch with them. A lot of those people, some of them have done on to great things. This was a great moment this week. And one of the people who worked with me at Baseball Prospectus, three of them, a lot of them went on to scouting positions. And Zach Mortimer, I'll call him out because he's amazing. He's been with the St. Louis Cardinals now for 12 years, and he's went all the way up the ranks. And this is why I do what I do, because this is why I'm going to drag this out a little bit. Zach got promoted this week from what, if you know baseball, national cross-checker, which is someone who oversees a lot of the prospects that are coming up through the draft. But he got promoted this week. I'm going to probably screw this up, but I think it's he's in charge. Basically, what it amounts to is they've been in charge of amateur acquisitions, which means he runs the Cardinals draft. But more importantly than that, he texted me at 8 a.m. that morning and said to me, "I just want you to know I'm getting promoted today to this role, and thank you for taking a chance on me 15 years ago."
Wow.
And that made my entire week. No matter what else happened after that, made my entire week. I mean, we used to joke with him, I used to have to edit his scouting reports. Now he's literally running the draft for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Congratulations, Zach.
So those are the kind of things that are important to me and what I've learned from baseball, but I've carried it into business too. You learn how these things come back to you in different ways. And I'm so appreciative of that aspect of it. So, that's a little story that keeps me going.
All right. Well, we have just a handful of minutes left. So we've got a few more questions. So what are you working on now?
Client acquisition. Anyone want to be a client? One of the things that with me is I'm continuously building out my content and I'm evolving that, as you all see. It's been fun. I love doing it. Takes a lot of time. Lindsay, you know that. But I'm enjoying it. And I love doing kinds of things that tie into real life stuff that I'm doing, real life examples. We're doing a whole overhaul of my website and my content on the back end. I have some really great people who are supporting me. I've learned I can't do this by myself. And yes, it's an investment in myself and it's cost money, but it's really worthwhile. So I'm working really closely with those people who are doing excellent work for me and constantly have my back. But I'm working towards some new potential clients that are being really great. I have some conferences lined up coming forward, but I'm getting out there. I joined, as most of you know by now, I moved to Florida a year and a half ago from New York. I love it here. I'm getting out into the community here, getting to meet people here, doing a lot more prospecting within my region. but that's a lot of what I'm doing now. So it's really
I love it.
business focused, but you have to take some time to do things for yourself as well.
Yeah. Okay. So who are your ideal clients?
So I am still working primarily, and I love this industry. So I'm primarily working in the PR, communications, digital advertising space. My sweet spot is probably the clients that are in the $5 million to $25 million revenue range, but I do work on outside of those as well. I primarily prefer retainer engagements, but I also do projects for people. I've gone a little bit outside of the realm of the comms arena, and I've met some amazing people who do really cool things. And so I'm going to do more of that. It's not going to. Probably will never like sway out of my niche per se, but I'm learning about all kinds of new businesses that are really amazing, and there's some incredible people behind those, and that's been one of the most energizing things about this transformation of my life and business.
Well, I just want to give you a big fat compliment because all these people in the comments have been just saying how much they love your content, how much it resonates, what a great mentor you are, what a pleasure it is to work with you. So I hope your future clients are listening because you would be a really wonderful mentor / advisor to them. So what is next for you?
So I'm exploring all kinds of things. One of the things that's interesting about doing this is, and somebody mentioned this to me, a really important person in my life, and if she's on, I'm not sure, but is that when you go out on and start to explore as an entrepreneurial person, even though you're focused on your core business, you start to see all these other opportunities arise. You're open to things that come into your life. And I've been really fortunate to have people come to me with other business opportunities. And I'm listening very closely to them. There's one that's in travel and tourism, one is in recruiting. And I think that there's a lot of aspects that I don't know what is completely next. I'm keeping an open mind to that, but I sort of feel a bit of a rebirth, if you will. Like this is, I feel almost like I'm 25 years old again, and I'm like all these things I could do. And it's also daunting. And there's the ups and downs of this thing where like, you don't have that steady stream. You don't know exactly what's coming every day. But I will say that it is extraordinarily energizing. And I'm excited about what is next that I'm not even sure I know yet. So that's where I'm at.
That's the great adventure called life. So while I chuck this QR code up there for everybody, that is Joe's LinkedIn. So Joe, other than LinkedIn, where can people find you?
So I also have a Substack. If you'd like to venture over there, it's a little bit more long form, but I'm enjoying that as well. That's at FinStrat CFO on Substack. You could also obviously visit my website, which is getting an overhaul at the moment, thanks to my good friend Andrew Sabatini, who's the person in Italy I'm working with. And I will do a little plug for Italian Life if you haven't checked that out. But so finstratcfo.com. I do have, I'm in the very early stages of running my own podcast, which is called Keep Going, by the way. And it's focused on leaders who have actually overcome lots of things that a lot of people don't know about, and have gone to really big roles recently. And we'll talk more about it next week. I interviewed a good friend of mine who's on a few advisory boards, Ron DeFeo, who's the CEO of American Airlines, who has an incredibly difficult job, but he's an amazing person, and he's gone through lots of changes in his life. So there's a couple of things for me, but obviously you can always DM me on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter if you want to sign up. It's on the website, that goes out every Monday morning, which I love to write. So there's all kinds of avenues to reach me, but feel free in whatever aspect is to contact me.
Well, Joe, you are a pleasure. I have enjoyed this so much, and I know our audience has too. Thank you for leading with so much heart, and thank you for sharing all of your wisdom with us. Guys, go connect with Joe. Say you heard him here. If you were meeting him for the first time, connect with me if we're not connected, although if you're here, I hope you are. And thank you for watching the Leadership Lounge. Please tell your friends and go check out the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I would love to see you over there. And if you like what you hear, let me know. But Joe is a leader that totally knows how to lead with heart. So everybody get out there, lead with heart, and have a great day. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Suzy. Thanks, everybody, for joining.